Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Newberg School District 29J Board of Directors meeting into order for our regular session of September 9th. And we'll start with the flag salute by Director Wolfer. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I know we have a lot of new things here with our computers, and I just wanted to point out before we sort of get into the meeting that we now have these notes that we will be turning in at the end of the meeting. So you can write whatever notes that you need to take, but just take a picture of it because we need to capture the notes per public records law that's down there. And we have our new computers, and I think this might be the last time we're doing the printed copy of the agenda, as we're trying to sort of.
Except for anything that needs to be signed, maybe?
Well, anything that needs to be signed would have a hard copy
Right.
for that. So, all right, review agenda, any additions or deletions to the agenda from any board member? Have any additions or deletions? Okay, let's move into the consent agenda. We have a number of probationary teacher contracts effective July 1. Congratulations to those folks for joining a fabulous district. We have retirement of Mr. Fuchs. And then always, we really like to point out our donations. Austin Family Foundation has come and supported a trip to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival in the amount of $1,326. So it's always very much appreciated. Help those theater folks. I guess it's the NHS Lit of an Author class trip. And then the minutes, if anybody has any. Are there any errant commas? I love that you pay attention. Okay, I think I can't do paper and computer. It's too much. Okay. Anybody want to throw out a motion or have any comments about anything on the consent agenda?
I just want to again welcome those who are joining this district team. And thank you to those who are leaving for your service. I move that the Newberg Dundee School Board of Directors approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any further questions? If not, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, now is the time for public forum. Individuals who are here, please come up to the microphone. Mr. McBride, I think that your comment for this evening.
Okay.
And your comment time is 3 minutes or less.
Okay.
But thank you for coming, and you have our attention.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate this. So I have a concern of it has been taken care of, thankfully, but I do want to bring this to the board's attention. My grandkids have moved down here from Washington, and so I have a grandchild that is in Maple Rush, 5th grade. And the second day of school, the teacher started talking to them and teaching them about Ouija boards. And I thought that's interesting. The only way our grandchild knew what that was is that my wife caught the grandchild playing on a tablet this summer, and there was a site there that was talking about it. And so I felt that that was inappropriate. I did call and talk to the principal, and he graciously listened, and we've moved that grandchild to a different class. But the second day, or the third day, excuse me, this teacher started again explaining with a podcast. The podcast shows how to build one and what supplies to get in order to take it home so you can play with it at home. Now, whether you believe in God or you believe in the devil, they actually exist. And that's satanic. That's a satanic toy. And it's very, very dangerous. It can open kids up to situations. I had a friend that when she was 22 was playing with one. Within a few months after that, she started hearing voices and jumped off of a bridge and broke her back and has been in a wheelchair for 40 years. So if you look at the reference of what a Ouija board means, it's seances to communicate with spirits. One of the things that they were taught in the class is about Bloody Mary, which is supposed to be like an urban legend, but it's a vengeful spirit. We looked it up, and it means vengeful spirit to appear in a mirror when her name is chanted repeatedly. So as the third day of class happened, they were instructed to start calling out to a spirit called Charlie, Charlie. And there was 2 pencils that are balanced on a piece of paper with a yes or no marked on it. Players asked a Mexican demon named Charlie questions. And so I reached out to the principal. I said, our grandchild doesn't need to be in a class if this is what the curriculum is. He assured me that that's not the curriculum that's being taught, which I appreciate that, and I will take that as a fact. But my stepdaughter did not want our grandchild in that class, and the principal has moved the grandchild to another classroom. But this is disturbing to me. I'm concerned about the other kids in the classroom. And so I hope that maybe something from this board could go out and just say, these types of things, there's one thing to talk about a myth like Greek mythology, but it's different when you start bringing up these things. They're absolutely true, and it can be devastating to anybody, not only kids, but adults that start playing and stuff like this. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention. And I'm not going to try and make this into a political issue. It doesn't need to be, but I will trust that perhaps it will leak down to perhaps all the principals in all of our schools. This type of thing just doesn't, in my opinion, should not be taught to our kids. If you can't talk about Jesus Christ in prayer, you shouldn't be talking about satanic things. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
So I'll check into it. So I'll give the principals a call and investigate.
All right, thank you. Any further comment from? All right. Hearing none, we will move into reports and presentations. Tammy, would you like to come up? And we'd like to thank you for these adorable little welcome back to school gifts.
Yes, you're welcome. We actually gave those to our new teachers coming into the district and wanted to make sure that you had them as well. We are excited for everyone in our district to grow together, be together, grow together. So the first thing that I have to present tonight is policy GBN JBA. This is a policy that typically has to be updated each year because there are names that are included for contacts. This is our policy around sexual harassment. And on page 2, We have to list the names of folks to contact in the event of complaints surrounding sexual harassment. So these are simply updated names. We got rid of the old names that were on the policy, updated with the new names. You'll see a similar situation with our civil rights complaints policy. I think we're reviewing that in our next policy meeting. So any questions about?
So we did talk to the ODE or OSBA about this because it's usually you don't have names in policies because then you have to update them every year, but this actually is part of the law. So we did try to move it to the AR, but that's not allowable.
Just to confirm, the only change from what this policy has been, is just the list of names.
Correct.
Okay. And then one note, is Mark Brown's email address Brown B, or
Looks wrong.
it does to me, but
Yep. You are correct. So we will correct that. Thank you. I'm going to have Andy correct all of my papers from now. You're good, Andy. Okay.
my one gift in life,
Thank you.
eagle eye.
Love it. Any other questions related to the policy? Okay, so the next item is last meeting we passed our academic calendar, and what we have done. This is a result of some pretty extensive talks with our union folks and some collaboration on making a few minor shifts between the elementary and secondary calendar. It's really centered around when grade reporting happens. And last year, the grade reporting for elementary schools did not provide a lot of really relevant and detailed information to parents because it was so early in the year. And so we looked at making a couple of shifts. I have our union president and vice president here as well. We took a look at the calendar and how best to meet the needs of our families in communicating some relevant information related to assessment and grading. In addition, changing when conferences fell specifically for the elementary folks. So if you bear with me, I'll kind of go over the changes for you. If you look at the primary academic calendar, you'll see that conferences remain the same in October. There are 2 days of conferences on the 16th and 17th. Conferences are pretty extensive for elementary folks. Lots of conversations and communication with parents during those conference times. And that's why 2 days are needed for our elementary teachers. And then on Friday, December 5th, that is still a no student contact day, but part of that is teacher prep and grading, and part of it is professional development for our elementary staff. If you look in February, you'll see that there is a teacher prep grading day, February 13th. Originally, that was going to be am I looking at the right one? Yeah, the conference day for both groups. And what we have done is we flip-flopped those two. So those are still no student contact days, but the primary or elementary grades will have their teacher prep grading day on the 13th, and then the conference day on March 13th. And again, providing them with a little bit more time to assess and really understand where students are academically, and they'll be better able to communicate with their parents at that time. So the only major change, if you flip over to the back with the secondary academic calendar, everything is pretty much the same. There is one change. If you look on October 16th, we've actually transitioned that into a school day. The reason behind this is because conferences, as I said earlier, look very different for secondary versus elementary. Less time, not as intensive with the high school and middle schools, because parents are actually able to see grades in real time on parent view. And so we don't see the traffic and the intensity of the conversations at the secondary level versus the elementary level. The other thing that this does is it provides us with an additional day for the secondary students. And with our furlough days, this gives us just a little bit more cushion. We're very tight in terms of our Division 22 requirements for the number of student hours. And so adding this day back actually gives us just a little bit more cushion, knowing that we may, face inclement weather days later on in the school year. So. Any questions about those adjustments?
Yeah, so one question, I guess, suggestion. So the question is what you just commented on about there's essentially a difference in school days between primary and secondary. Is having a less day on elementary or primary, is that gonna cause any risk of meeting seat time or days?
No, actually, our elementary group is well over the number of
Okay.
hours. We have plenty built in. It's always the secondary that is just really close.
And then my suggestion is I think anybody that's involved with the schools or internally within the schools truly understand primary and secondary, those words. You might want to call out the fact that primary is K through 5 and secondary is
Thank you.
6 through 12, right?
Appreciate that.
Yep.
Yep, elementary. Yep, we can do that. Thank you.
Does this provide us with any hiccups for transportation, or where is the bus company good to pick up an
Yep,
extra day
should,
for those secondary kiddos?
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And again, our rationale around working on this is really that idea of making sure that the elementary teachers have relevant information to share with their parents and can engage on a much deeper level to provide that feedback. So.
I do want to make sure we're understanding. So grading in the first trimester for elementary means that our teachers would basically put does not meet, 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 does not meet. We're assessing on the end of the year standard. So that's why it feels like that first grading is not as important as having a very full conference where we can actually show work and talk about the reading levels. So that day on December 5th, it would have been a grading day for elementary, is actually prep and PD. And we're not doing the transmission, the talking about where your child is at is happening at the conferences. So I just want to call that out, that there's a very distinct, and it gives us more time. It gives us a little more time for PD, gives elementary teachers a little more prep. But it just doesn't seem very useful to mark does not meet, does not meet, does not meet right down the grade, because it's the first trimester. And before we had semester, which would have been February, would have been the first grading, which is why this is, when they went to the trimester, why this is a challenge. And then I also want to call out that we didn't do all the work on this. This was very much kind of collaborative between our union talking with us about, hey, this doesn't make sense. And so I do want to give them an opportunity to say anything that they would like to about kind of where they're at on this.
Okay. We got the thumbs up.
Could you just introduce yourselves in case people don't know who you are?
Mike Weston, new union president.
I'm Andrea Nickel and I'm the vice president. And Jillian should get some credit too, because as I was our third year with trimesters, as soon as we went to trimesters, elementary people knew that was going to be different. So each year Jillian and I have tried to figure it out, and we keep making changes, and this was this last summer truly effort to be really collaborative.
Great. Thank you very much.
And then just the other note here would be the grading prep day for elementary now falls on February 13th. Normally on a semester schedule, that would have fallen right about January 29th, 30th, February 1st. So we're pretty close to where we would have normally given feedback on a grade report. So just kind of pointing out some of those pieces.
I guess my only question, I'm curious if there's any issues that early in the year, especially for elementary school, like having enough information about students at that point. Obviously, I'm not the teacher. I expect that everyone here knows that. I'm interested in that idea that it just feels almost early, like not even one trimester in at that point. So just thinking out loud.
In terms of the conferences or feedback?
Yeah, teachers having that knowledge of the students that early in the year.
I can see that. I think,
You mind come?
Yeah. If you wouldn't mind coming up to the,
So
so we have,
people at home can.
thanks.
As long as the red light's on.
There's a little button.
it feels early. Of course, you know, what's today, the 4th or 5th day? I feel like I've been with my kids for weeks already, but we spend a lot of time doing diagnostics, beginning of the year kind of things. Our window just opened yesterday, so we do reading assessments, a math assessment, and then we share that data, but we also use it to set goals. So this is our goal for the middle of the year. This is the goal. I mean, 6 weeks feels early. I can see that, but we do have a lot of data to share at that time. And we've also changed most of the elementary schools. We've gone away from having like a formal curriculum night in September. We have the back to school, drop off your supplies, meet the teacher. So those days in October are really some of the first times we're sitting down with the families and connecting.
Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate it.
I have a question, and then I want to just confirm my understanding. We've talked about the possibility of being able to reclaim a furlough day. And so I'm looking at that January 5th furlough day. If that was to be reclaimed, would the prep part of that and the professional development part of that shift up?
Yeah, that would actually, we would, sorry. Monday would no longer be a furlough day, and that prep, professional development would move to Monday, and then the kids would come back on Tuesday.
Okay. Thanks for confirming that. And then I just
But I do want to point out the snow makeup days at the bottom there, kind of point at February 9th as a day we would probably point at. If we were like giving a furlough day back, we'd probably be headed for that February 9th day first.
Oh, yes, I see. Okay, thank
Yep.
you. And then in the October conference, I'm looking at the elementary calendar here, and the 2 conference days in October. Those were what were originally scheduled, right?
Correct.
So I just want to be really clear. We're not taking another day of instruction away.
No.
I could see people starting on the secondary side and then going here and saying, wait, another day? So I just want to be super clear.
You know what? That's a great point. Yes, thank you for clarifying that. No, the original plan, 2 conference days in October for everyone. We've taken one of those days back. It's interesting because the secondary groups typically have an evening conference. So what it's going to look like probably for secondary groups is Thursday evening and then Friday as well. So it actually feels like a little bit more than a day of conferences, but and then elementary will use both Thursday and Friday.
Thank you.
This is not particularly relevant to these days that we're discussing, but just because I'm staring at it, could I ask that in the future we get a little bit of feedback on just how Soft Start went for kindergarten?
Oh,
And what-
absolutely.
What feedback we got from that and just how it was for teachers and families and
Yes.
everybody. And then also if we're going to do that again next year, that we tell families about it just so early next year,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. This is coming to you late, mostly because of they didn't settle the state finances until late. We did negotiations. The furlough day had to come after the negotiations. So there was a whole line of things that pushed it to here. We'll move on next year's calendar in December, and it'll have these pieces, whatever we're doing next year. So we will move earlier.
And for what it's worth, what I've heard from some building folks about Soft Start is that it has gone swimmingly well, very well. So, but we'll get more.
Okay, any further questions for Tammy around schedules? If not, we'll move to Jillian and the integrated plan. Thanks, Tammy.
Thanks. Yes.
And thank you, Mike and Andrea.
Well, good evening. We're going to talk integrated grants, one of my favorite things to come visit you all about each year. Really awesome report because it captures some of the most exciting student learning that's happening in our district. It's all great, but this is exciting because it braids together so nicely. And also we have so many branches off of the work from private donations that we received, specifically the Austin Family Foundation work. So it's really great to be able to have this conversation. It doesn't work. Can you just click for me? So as a reminder, the integrated grants comprise of multiple different funding sources and programs that our Oregon Department of Education has braided together, if you will, so that all of the outcomes align to a well-rounded education for students, every student getting what they need, engaging our community and strengthening systems and capacity. So these grants are, for us, high school success, our student investment account, early indicators and intervention systems, and our early literacy grant are the programs that bring us in dollars. And then we also have our CTE Perkins grant, Everyday Matters, which is an attendance program, and our continuous improvement planning as well as part of this whole process. Next slide. So in terms of our goals for the program, and we set these at the very beginning of our work, so they're on like 5-year cycles. So every 2 years, you're going to be resetting goals. So our current goals are older, but still very much applicable. And I'm really excited to share some of the progress that we've made on them. Student attendance will increase to 95% for all demographic groups. Student graduation rates will increase to 95% for all demographic groups. Access to CTE pathways as measured by student participation and graduation, and then improvement of student performance and academic support in our core math as measured by our OSAS assessment. Original goal was 38.8%, and we are looking to improve to 90%. Next slide. And then we moved into our literacy coursework as measured by OSAS, our state assessment for literacy, from 50.5% to 90%. And then focusing on providing a smaller student to staff ratio across our district programs and creating robust teaching and learning opportunities for all of our staff and students. Next slide. So before the meeting, I handed everybody out this little one-pager. This is an addition to the board report. I should mention that the narrative that was in your packet is also posted online, and you'll also see pieces of that narrative throughout the presentation. So really on this slide, I want to draw your attention to where we are now. So if you look at 1920, that's kind of where our goal setting started. In terms of our 5-year trend. So that first column, 5-year average, is going to be all of our data from 2019-20 to 2023-24. So that's the average in there. And you can see where we're making gains and where we still have some opportunities to continue to improve. So our 4-year graduation and our 5-year graduation have stayed pretty steady. There's been some increases and decreases. We've had a little bit of ups and downs, but overall, we are outperforming the state, and our graduation rates are really good for Newberg School District. But what I really want to draw your attention to is 9th grade on track. Our actual for the 23-24 school year is 82%. And you'll note this presentation is about 24-25, but that data is still suppressed. So we're looking at the 23-24 data here. As well as on the English language arts proficiency. That data is a little bit flat, but we're going to talk a little bit later about the gap closing. And so this is our intervention plan for students. And then our regular attendance data. So these are opportunities that we still have for improvement, but where we are now And I just thought it would be great for you all to see kind of that 5-year historical snapshot from where we were to where we are and where we're going to go next. So that first purple column under 24-25, that's our target for this upcoming data release that will happen here later this fall. And then our targets for the 25-26 school year. Next slide. I'll go a little bit more into that data as we get further into the presentation. You'll see another side to that. So our actual allocations, I have them listed here for you. They're also in the narrative and posted on our website. So basically all of these funds we're braiding together to support our student needs, but we've got some specific actions under each grant. Next slide, please. So for our student investment account, this is really where we're supporting our student mental health, our school counselors, speech and language support, our special education programming, English language development, our literacy specialists, and various positions in the teaching and learning department. So our student investment account funds there are really looking to bolster support for students, especially those that might experience struggle at school. Next slide, please. Our high school success grant focuses on credit recovery, our career technical education, dropout prevention, post-secondary success, our school-based health center, and summer school. Kind of falls under that bucket for high school success. And then our third grant under early indicator and intervention systems is really focusing on supporting some of our data systems that we utilize in the district for student assessment data and interventions for reading, mathematics, and English language development. And then the last grant we have is our early literacy grant. And this grant is supporting our reading specialists, our literacy specialists, and high dosage tutoring. So some of our instructional assistants along with summer school. So this is really focusing on our reading interventions and support for students that might be experiencing struggle within their core literacy class. I'm not going to read all of the slides. You have these in your packet. The next few slides are the specific the licensed like FTE and classified staffing that supports each of the positions and the dollar amounts. So you can see how the dollars go to specific positions and activities. All of this will be in your packet, and it's also posted on our website. You want to cruise through those, Nathan? That'd be great. And so then this next area is about the actual requirement from ODE, our annual report questions. There's 3 questions. Basically, they're what's our review on our progress that's going well? How do we see our progress contributing to our outcomes and our strategies that we have for the grants? The second question is what barriers, challenges, or impediments have you been facing towards the progress to the outcomes and strategies? And then the last question is reviewing our local data as compared to the targets that we've created to share on our progress. So I'm not going to read verbatim each of those slides. They're in your narrative, but I do want to go back to that data. So if you go to your sheet, next slide, Nathan, one more. Thank you. We're going to be focusing on this first section where you see that blue box, the difference in student achievement. So this is our increase. And so the areas are going really well for us. 9th grade on track. Our high school, Mark Brown, Tammy Arian, the whole high school staff and Catalyst staff, Chris Stevens and his staff, really focusing on making sure kids are on track for 9th grade and ready to have those skills to be successful in high school as well as graduation. So you can see that we've made some pretty large gains, specifically in closing the gap for our students who might experience struggle at school, 11% increase for that gap closure. And that's like huge. And I know that Mark and Tammy have gotten lots of questions from ODE about what's going on and what are all the great things that you're doing. And so a lot of the activities that happen at the high school are supported by these grants, like the credit recovery program we have, the CTE program, and that's where I want to bring in like this all kind of started with these grants, but then it spread out to our community, and the support that we have through donations from our community partners has really grown through these grants. So they are so critical to us. And then we can look at that 3rd grade language arts proficiency. While we are pretty flat in that area, not seeing a lot of growth for our general population of students. The gap closure, so the students who are really experiencing struggle in becoming proficient readers did close 6%. So a lot of the resource that we have for literacy is targeted towards our intervention program. And so that has been highly effective in closing the gap for our students who are finding it challenging to become readers. And then our regular attendance up in all areas for all students. So we had a 4% increase for all students, and then we had a stretch target that was like, if we could do the best, even better, what that target would be, and that was 3% up. And then again, that gap closure. So students who might normally have some challenges in attending school regularly, their gap closed 3%. And so this is like really awesome progress. So I would say question number one, what's our progress? Like, it's here. This is the bulk of where we've been successful through our high school programming and the support that we've had for literacy and language acquisition and our special education and speech staff, along with the mental health and school counselors, kind of that primary bucket that we're really talking about with this data. And so then when we consider the areas where we have experienced some barriers, it's that flat data. Like, our kids are doing well as compared to the state, but it's flat. We're not growing as compared to what our Oregon State assessments measure versus our local data. So we have some really awesome local data. We kind of referenced that earlier with conferences, and Andrea Nickel brought it up, and she had talked about that benchmark data. So we do screening 3 times a year for elementary students, and then multiple times a year at the secondary level, measuring their reading and math skills. And our local performance data is really high. And so that's an area where we're trying to work on, like, what's the discrepancy between their performance in class and on their classroom assessments versus the state assessments. And so that's an opportunity for us to continue to work on as our local assessments continue to develop. And that's one of our goals that we have this year in teaching and learning. And then continuing to find interventions to support like the whole system. So I mentioned our reading interventions are really robust, but now we're working on how do we continue to grow and develop our pathways for additional math support or other areas such as behavior. So really making our like multi-tiered support system more robust to enhance not only reading, but other content and behavioral areas as well. And that's going to support our new data system. This year we had a new data system launch with Panorama, and that gives our teachers and staff in the buildings live access to students' current grades, their attendance, all of the student information that we capture. It's a like one-stop shop to view it all, so you can see the whole student and not just those pieces. And so we're really excited to be able to use that data in our professional learning communities this year to really begin to move some of these needs that we have for students. And then as well as the BAR program to support that conversation at the secondary level. And that started at the high school and now has rolled down, and it will be at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade this year in the middle school. So lots of really great opportunity, but lots of work and opportunity in terms of challenge still to come that we have work ahead of us. And then that last one, really celebrating those gap closures for our kids at the 3rd grade for literacy. Our investments that we have used with our SIA program and the early literacy, as well as the early indicators, are really paying off for our students. The high school and the CTE programs and dropout prevention, like, you all were there, being able to watch those kids graduate and the excitement it has, like, that's what we want to see every day in terms of that excitement and support for students. So these are just really highlights that we're excelling. And that is all of the information that I would like to share with you this evening, and I would love to have questions. I will seek a motion next board meeting to approve this, but this is our annual report. And so if you've got any questions, I'd be happy to take those.
Yeah, I'm curious when, like, we are just setting targets for 25, 26 now. Is that correct?
So the targets that are listed here were set, I believe it's 3 years ago. So it's like you set a target for 5 years, and then every 2 years you set more targets.
Okay.
So these were set, I'm looking at my friend Holly. Yeah, they were set 3 years ago. Yeah.
The new ones. And so the 23, 24 targets that we're looking at the actuals on were 2020?
They were all set 3 years ago.
Oh,
at
they
the
were all
beginning
set.
of
I get- okay.
When they braided these grants together.
Okay.
Sorry, it's a little confusing because
Yeah,
the
no.
like some of the grant funds existed before, and then ODE worked together with districts to braid the grants together, so there's not a bunch of different reporting cycles.
Sure.
So there's actually probably 3 or 4 more years of data beyond this,
Okay.
but this is kind of the post-COVID data, and then when everything started to get braided together.
So I guess my follow-up would be this started being set at COVID time.
Just after, so like 3 years ago.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out like if it was 2020 and we knew that, let's say 1920, we had 85% for that baseline 4-year cohort, that we then set it at 85% for the 5 years out. I guess I'm interested in why some of these targets seem like we started the baseline from those previous years rather than, does that make sense?
Yes, the targets were set in 2022.
2022.
I believe that was the 22-23 school year.
Okay. Perfect. That helps a lot. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Well, I love the data and I like the trend we're going on for most of that. I appreciate calling out what we're gonna look at doing for the other ones that aren't so smashing. But I appreciate you taking the time and putting this together. I have questions more around kind of the table of expenditures.
Mhm.
And I'm going to preface this with an eye on we're going to have to get tighter as we get rid of furlough days for next year, right? And so I'm just trying to understand where some of this comes from. So I'm looking at in my mind, two very similar roles: a literacy specialist and wages under the SIA on page 20, and then the reading specialist wage under early lit on page 22.
Yes, they are the exact same thing.
Okay, so then if we break it down by the FTE amount, why are we paying one of them 83,000 and the other 100,000?
So it doesn't split out that way.
Okay.
So reading specialists in our district were first funded under SIA. And then with the onboarding of the early literacy grant, it's about half for each reading specialist transition to early literacy. So they're split funded.
Okay.
And then 2 of our reading specialists are funded with Title I dollars. So there's some variability in there, and that it all started in SIA. And then when early literacy came on, like one of the first requirements of that grant was supporting K-3 reading.
Okay.
And so we shifted a portion of those reading specialists to the early literacy grant. So the early literacy grant and the funds in SIA add together and fund all of our reading specialists, with the exception of Joanne Austin and Edwards Elementary that have a portion of their reading specialists out of Title I.
Okay. Yeah, I think it makes sense for now. Okay. Might have more questions later.
No problem.
The complexity that they've added to going from general fund and title funds to general fund, SIA, early literacy, and title funds. And we're funding things across all of those grants. So it does get complex now. I'm not sure this is doing what ODE wanted, because now it's all sunk costs in staff. So any cuts in any of these grants means we're cutting functions from the district. So it's a very complex process, and we would love it if it wasn't so complex.
Just kind of piggyback off Director Hayden's question, is there any way we could see some of these positions blowing up to show like the breakdown of FTE that's coming from each funding stream for each position? Like I see like there are 5 ELD specialist FTE, but I know that not all of that is coming directly from here. Like we're saying, it's coming from this and that, and maybe from Title I. Is there any way to show that? Because it's hard to know. Is that all of the ELD specialists that we have? Is it 5.5? Is it
right?
Is that actually, yeah?
Right. So
So
this
if-
is only showing the portion of FTE covered by this specific grant.
And I respect
Absolutely.
that this is just part of this presentation and it is not the goal to blow that up. But I think just in terms of looking further out, it would be nice if we could find a way, whether that's by budget season, just so we can see those FTEs split out in a, I guess, closer view, higher view.
Well, and I would also ask, to what extent is that a staff, like what's the impact on your time to be able to do that type of analysis? And I think, that's
Larger
the
question.
consideration that Dave would have regarding what are we asking for, and what is the time it takes for you to do that level of.
Yeah, so let me do a little work. I know what you're looking for now, and we have other FTE charts that I just don't know how, let me do a little work and see if I can give you and it may be budget season when we come around and start looking at the FTE of trying to see kind of how we're funding the different, but we're braiding lots of different funds nowadays. And it's not just us, every district is braiding lots of funds to try and with the cuts coming to these funds, we've got even more braiding to do to maintain services.
And I do apologize for conflating budgetary ideas with this
No, but I know what you're looking for. Let's see what we can figure out. Yeah.
I have a pretty good sense of how that splits. Like, just if you're going to talk about, or like the English language development specialist specifically, it's like about half and half. But you're right, you're only getting that snapshot of like what's funded out of here.
Yeah. Just really quick, in the front of the adopted budget, there is a chart that lists the positions and the FTE by year of those licensed positions. So if you're looking for all of a certain position, it's in there. It doesn't break it out by fund, but it shows the total.
I think that's my question. Is there a way to see it by fund rather than just cost, so that I don't know, I think it could help clear up even looking back at the budget at that point. But
Yeah.
again, one last question about this. Is there any worry about this kind of leveling out for some of these cohort graduation rates? Obviously, we're not declining at a significant rate. You said we're above the state averages, but is there any,
So the ninth grade on track is actually one of the better indicators for us because it's actually speaking to more kids on track, leading to higher graduations coming. So that's actually a number that's a really important one for us. I would also say that we're now spending time, the start of the school year, we've spent almost all the time talking about teaching and learning. I'll talk about it in my comments here, but it seems for several years we've been kind of focused around the politics and drama. And we're now getting refocused around how do we begin to impact instruction. And so I actually don't think we're leveling. We still have lots of work to do, even with the kind of positive data here. Our reading levels, our achievement levels are still low, and we're higher than other folks, but that still doesn't change the fact that we need to make impact on the kids that we have. But I don't see us leveling. Our focus around professional learning communities, which is basically teacher efficacy, is one of John Hattie's highest rated strategies as far as improving student achievement. Our focus on UDL, again, is a highly rated strategy in research. So we have lots of work to do, but I will say that I feel like we're headed in the right direction. And we're working really hard not to head in lots of different directions, but to stay focused on things that we know have impact over years instead of going this direction, then now we see this and we're going that direction. So we're working really hard to make things align. We'll talk about as we come up in the coming sections here around superintendent goals and board goals, is we're working really hard to align these pieces. As more, but
thank you.
Any other questions for Jillian?
Yeah. Thank you, Jillian. It's really helpful to see kind of the goals with the narrative. Those two go really well together. I have a question, kind of, well, two. I'd like to learn a little bit about the bar program in particular and how that's being phased in. So, like in the narrative, it says, during last school year, it was basically started at 8th grade and then it's going to be phased in this year. That doesn't have to be tonight. I'm just curious about that program in particular and what that, what the things that the metrics or the indicators that that program is looking for. And then specifically about OSAS, do we have an idea of the number of students who are opting out of OSAS, who are not being captured here, but who might also be impacting our data?
Do you want that number right now? I don't have that number right now, but my friend sitting over there probably has that number right now, but we do have that data, and opt-outs are impacting some of our OSAS data. And that's been like one of the discrepancies in terms of our local assessment data versus the OSAS state assessment data is the opt-out factor.
Yeah. Yeah. Not needed tonight. I'm assuming, data should be coming out later this month.
Yep.
And so we'll be looking at 24-25 data soon.
Yes.
Those are my questions.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Andy.
Any further questions for Jillian? Great job, really.
Thank
And
you.
you're always so enthusiastic about all this information, so really appreciate that. Okay, Dave, you have quite a few things here,
Yes.
so we'll just let you go through them.
I'll just start moving through it. I wanted to, mostly from our meeting on July 1st, and then also August, I have kind of a bunch of items to go through. The first one, we had a conversation about trying to do the work sessions, the second board meeting in the month, away from here and at a school site. And so I put in your packet kind of a tentative schedule. September would be Edwards, October is Catalyst. Trying to, again, I know I've heard questions from folks around different programs, trying to kind of feed that into Newberg in January. Again, November and December, we only have one meeting, so it would be our regular session here. January at the high school, February, Ewing Young. April will be Mountain View, and then Joanne Austin and Dundee. We'll work with each of the principals to put on when we go to the site. Like, I think our first one's at Edwards. I think it'll be in the library. So we'll try and set up kind of a setting. We'll probably use the OWL to do the live video feed. And then want to start with having the principal just present kind of what's unique about the school. What are some of the things that are going well, and what are some of the challenges? And trying not to make it a fancy, but to give some honest feedback about what they feel like is going well and what are some of the challenges. And so that's what we're working out to kind of have this at each one of these. The other thing we're doing is next to it, you'll see the staff spotlight, which is at this school, we want to highlight some staff as part of our district Renaissance committee, which is kind of our building district culture. We want to just go to each of these buildings, and also, so on that work session, we'll highlight a staff member and some of the work that they're doing. And then I'll push it out in our Friday communication to also just celebrate those staff members. So I've got those set up month by month so that we can, again, just take a moment to celebrate some of the hardworking professionals we have. And so that's kind of the idea. Questions, or if there's some changes that we need?
So the staff spotlight would be outside of board meetings. That wouldn't be.
Yeah, what I thought I'd do is talk about it in my comments. Or I'd set up a little part there just for maybe even the principal being able to talk about that staff member with you. It wouldn't be long, but I think just a moment to be able to present and celebrate some folks on a board meeting, I think is important.
I guess then, like I see November 20th,
So they compare.
but that's a Thursday?
Yeah, so that would be, I'm just gonna push it out on the.
I see.
On our communication.
Okay.
Because we
And
don't
then-
have a board meeting and I didn't want to miss a month.
Sure.
So, and we don't hit every school this way this year, but I figured we would put in the ones we miss at the start of next year and again, kind of cycle back around. Good question.
I would just like to say that I'm super excited about this, and I would like to thank all the principals and everybody in advance because it's, I'm sure, a lot to accommodate us, but I think we're all excited to be in the school spaces a bit more this year.
Yep.
And I'd like to do a shout out to Director Byerly for really talking to me about that at the beginning of his term and suggesting it. And I think we've sort of bounced it around a little bit, but now that we're not in crisis, it's really nice to be able to do some of this. So I appreciate your perspective about getting out of the building here. Good Lord. Okay.
They're coming. Okay.
No, the really unfortunate thing is I just got my flu shot and my pneumonia shot in this arm. So every time I push down and it goes, it's a little painful. I might not scream.
I don't think we need any action on that, but if you do have feedback, give it to me. Otherwise, I'll start moving on getting those organized and off and rolling. Okay.
Is there anything we need to do differently in terms of noticing those meetings? Like we'll have signage. I mean, we'll have it in our board packet, the location we posted. I'm assuming we'll have signage here in case people show up.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll probably send out the this as part of our Friday communications, and then we'll just make sure that it's everywhere that we're when we notice. Yeah,
great.
I mean, I think it'd be fun to also just let the principal do some noticing in their with their parents to come and have a moment.
Yeah, actually, with Director Byerly's question, we don't even have it on here, like where this board meeting is at on our agenda, so that would be something maybe to add on the header section, and then we could change that, of course, when we're visiting the sites.
Yep.
One thought, I know in our work sessions, we don't normally do public comments, but I didn't know since we're doing a tour and I don't know, it just might be a thought to actually add that back in for those, because I think we're gonna, or at least my hope is that we're gonna draw some people that might not normally come to the district office, but will go to their home school, and it might be a really good opportunity to hear some perspectives we normally wouldn't.
Yep. Okay, I will make that happen. Next, I met with Aubrey and with Celeste to go over a couple of these documents here. And the first one was we took our last conversation in July was around the board and superintendent working agreements. I brought kind of a new draft. There was one conversation about making sure that we add in, like, what happens when you as a board member or superintendent, what happens when you don't follow the agreement? So we took language from OSBA and one of their documents around what censure looks like, and then added that in. I highlighted it yellow just so you would know what the addition was there. Other than that, the document's basically the same as what we talked about in July. And then basically in the next meeting, we'd vote and take action on this. And between now and then, as you read this, if you have questions, send them to me. I'm happy to prep them, answer them, whatever we need to do for the next board meeting.
Yeah, I think it looks great just from, what I've read. I appreciate the board members' assistance with this.
Can you remind us, if, we do adopt these goals next meeting, which is fine, or I guess we're stepping ahead, hold on, working agreement and goals. Sorry. Never mind, my question is about goals, so.
Okay.
I'll wait till the next item.
Superintendent goals. So what I did is basically take the 4 comments that you made on my evaluation of areas that you wanted me to focus on. And they happen to also be exactly, I mean, I totally agree. These are the areas that I think that we should be focused on. And so the first one is strengthen public communication and community visibility. That's straight from your document to me. So there's no, I mean, that's just directly there. I've laid out kind of a goal, increase the visibility of district achievements and priorities by developing and implementing public communication strategy that highlights district successes, builds community trust, and improves access to key information on public platforms. And then I've laid out some of my objectives, some of the things that I'm already pointed at. On the far right, I've kind of listed out deliverables and some timelines of when I'm starting the different pieces. There's some key metrics there. We could use those. I mean, when we get to the evaluation timeline, I'm gonna tell you there's a moment there in March or April, early April, that I come and present to you what my evaluation data is. And so what I'm using to and how I feel like I've done. So that will be there. Goal 2, I'm not going to go into each one of the objectives. I'm already off and rolling on them, but 2 is really around deepen instructional impact and student achievement, which is goal number 1. I mean, maybe I should have listed that as goal number 1, but strengthening PLCs, reintroduce and integrating UDL, build and launch a standards-based local assessment. That's a 3-year plan that I've asked teaching and learning to prepare. Those are the 3 goals for the next 3 years. I mean, we're not changing off of those pieces. We'll continue to evolve and improve those. And again, those are rated right back to Dr. Hattie's research around what improves student achievement. Teacher collective efficacy, the differentiation practices across the K-12, and then the local assessment pieces. Again, I've listed out kind of the evidence and then kind of deliverables and key metrics there for you to be able to determine whether or not I'm doing great work. Number 3 is really around strategic planning, governance alignment, and boundary review. And I'll talk a little bit about the boundary committee coming up, but that's really the big work that I have as superintendent to do this year, is to kind of get us aligned with a strategy of where we're going for the next 5 to 10 years. I'll talk about the boundary committee coming up. I'm looking at the strategic plan kind of mid-year, but it kind of depends on how some of these other pieces roll out as to when that will happen. And then last but not least is the goal that we all have to focus on is long-term financial sustainability. This continues to be a challenge for us and will, because of money is getting shorter from ODE and from our legislator. And so it's going to continue to be a real challenge for us as we climb out of the hole. Nate will present soon kind of our ending fund balance. It's improved from where we talked about at the last meeting. So there's good things happening there. But this year will be a challenge with expenses and revenue. So it's going to continue to be work for us to manage this. And so those are the 4 goals that I'm suggesting. Questions?
You actually answered my question. I was giving me is when's the timeline of us actually doing the evaluation? Are you doing the evaluation week 3 or whatever, et cetera? That's basically spring. So that's fine. Though I did notice one thing, your headers on goal 1 are different than your headers on goals 2, 3, and 4. And the yellow. You have different verbiage on a couple of them.
I'll fix it.
Yeah. Semantics. You're good. So
I have a question about goal 2. And so this is in the context of Jillian's, like percentages. We don't have like percentages identified in the student achievement and instructional impact goals. And so I was wondering if you had those in mind and or if those can be included, and what is the percentage that we're looking for?
My goals would be the district's goals in what she's just pointed out, so I can insert those.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
I wouldn't pick, we definitely want to, again, align all of the work that we're doing. And so I would pick whatever our target is around student investment account. I would pick those as, are we making progress? Yep.
Thank you.
And I like your idea of moving goal 2 to be goal 1.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to go to the school board's goals next, but I just want to call out one thing when we talk about, I'm going to come back to the superintendent evaluation timeline. Is there some real problems in the way Oregon does superintendent evaluations and you getting the data that you want? But we'll talk about it when I get to that evaluation. It's going to kind of come back to your point, Celeste. For the school board goals, I put, again, we sat down, we met with Celeste and Aubrey to kind of talk through this. They're basically my goals, but it's written in terms of your oversight of me. That's kind of your goals here is to manage me. So it's, again, goal 1 will be, I'll make that switch. Prioritize student achievement through policy. I listed out the purpose, and then I listed out some key measures. When you come together as a board to talk about your performance, again, there's going to be the data that we have that we produce, but there's also these pieces kind of like for you to look at. How did you do your work? And so I put down some ideas for key measures: adoption, revision of policies supporting student learning. Again, we've got a lot of policy work for you to talk about your performance as a board. We made it through 100 policies this year. That speaks, I mean, that's a measure of some work that you're doing around governance. Regular student achievement data updates. These are all the different things that, again, that I think you need to expect of us. That's my thought. I've seen folks where they got into more of the weeds on this. I don't think that's, when you come together to look at your performance, I think you sit down and look at these things and begin to talk about how you performed. That's what this is meant for, is your improvement. I don't believe you've run a evaluation of you ever.
We have not.
So again, I think there's room here for us to play with this, do some work, and then provide some feedback and then kind of go from there. So this is my suggestion.
I like it. Looks good. We did good work on that, whatever meeting that was. I mean, I really think this was really reflective of that energy that we had in the room that night.
Yeah, I really appreciate aligning our goals with your goals. I think it just makes sense. And I plan on having, this document, this school board document, sort of just like with me at every board meeting. I think that it's important to keep these front and center. I'm a visual learner, so I need to have the paper with me, but I just think as a board, as much as we can continue to come back to this this year, it will be really beneficial.
It's funny you say that. So I was looking at, Jackie passed me a document today that basically had a placemat of your goals, the things that I'm working on, all the important, maybe even your board agreements, all kind of on a placemat here, just that we, along with your other stuff, we just place out there for you. So it sits there each time. And if you need to reference it, you can do that.
Aubrey loves it.
And we have it laminated.
Laminated, and then I can use like a whiteboard pen on.
Yeah.
Jackie is a visual learner, my friend.
Thank you, Jackie.
Welcome, Jackie.
Thank
We
you,
love
Jackie.
it.
What was that quote from a couple years ago? Like,
we model the way for our children. Is that,
It's the one where we talked about putting it
yeah,
up there.
we model the way for our,
That'd be really cool to put like
children.
across the top.
because of course that was when it was so chaotic and everybody wanted to yell at each other and be rude and mean.
So yeah, we can, I mean, that's kind of where we were headed with this. So, there was a second part there too. What was the first part of your?
That I was gonna, keeping it front and center in our discussions and returning to it
Oh.
out loud intentionally.
So
times.
there's more alignment going on, and I just want to make sure you knew kind of where that was going, which is I start my meetings with principals tomorrow, where I'm sitting down and doing their goal setting. And their goal setting will be exactly the same. How are you leading PLCs? How is this going? And then two, how is UDL, how are we learning about UDL, the Universal Design for Learning? And to get very quick about it, it's when we plan a lesson, we plan for both kids who may need reteaching, but we also plan for kids who have already learned it. And so as we come into the lesson, we're basically aligning the lesson for everybody to make sure that all our groups are growing, not just one group, maybe the group that is behind that's getting the reteaching, but we aren't thinking about the rest of the class. That's the basic principle around UDL. I don't think my teaching and learning folks will probably, it's a little more complicated than that, but that's my summary of it. So again, I think you'll see also like just what I'm expecting from principals lines up with those goals.
I had the opportunity to go to the all staff back to school event, and Dave had a great presentation that he gave. And it would be lovely if you sent it out to the board, because I think that really, it was a great aha moment for me that he really was saying, we all have the goals, but how do we all have the opportunity to help reach those goals? And it's different for, us versus, administration. There's a very great video, much like last year's video, very funny. And then we didn't really talk about this new logo. So I think that is a really impactful, your presentation about it at the meeting was really impactful. So,
I'm going to talk some more in my comments about it. Yep.
but Dave is very funny on the video, I'm just gonna say. You'll look for that.
By accident. Okay. Your goals, my goals, your goals, superintendent timeline. Just want to point out, this is a timeline that I think we can replicate. Couple of things, which is tonight we're kind of setting the goals. Typically, I'm actually going to try next year. It would be earlier, like August. I'd present these in August. You'd approve in the first meeting of September, and then we're off and going. But the things that I do want to point out here is like 414 is when I present my self-evaluation. And then we'll do the collecting of feedback for me after I give you my evidence. But that happens like 4/28, and then you're discussing and approving it May 12th. You're not going to have any of the test data. So that's the hard part about this OSBA cycle is that you're going to get the test data in October. So you are going to have to make some judgments about the work that I'm doing without the assessment data. We might have some local assessment data that we can show. It's just the hard part of this process is you're not going to have all the data that you want to be able to make that full assessment of me. So I just want to point it out.
I have a question about the timeline. To
Yeah.
me, yes, complete evaluation documents, but that's for everybody, 360-degree surveys and board and superintendents complete that then, but then you don't present until a month later?
The typically, you have to notify me of, again, there's some weird things here, which is by March 15th, you have to notify me if you want to terminate my contract. So there are some things that kind of happen. The valuation documents, typically it would be right before spring break that you guys are kind of starting to put that together. If you wanted me to go earlier, I can do that. That was just typically we started collecting the info. I presented on the 14th, and then you guys finalize your document and get it to me by early May.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to go for the spearheading comment, but yes, I was going to get to the notify superintendent contract extension or non-extension is kind of should be after the evaluation process has been presented, maybe not finalized or signed or whatever. And so to me, that just doesn't make sense where we're extending or non-extending before the self-evaluation.
Well, and that's a little bit of a tricky spot that we were in last year. If you remember our January, February board meeting. So you're right. It just, and as Dave points out, the timeline and the information that we need to be able to do a real thorough and evaluation, that is all not available to us. But some of this is dictated by
This is OSBA's
OSBA.
Kind of typical evaluation scale. And again, it just gets weird. Again, I suppose the issue here is if you start collecting information on, like January, February, to get ready to deliver my evaluation in March that's like 2 months from now, 3 months from now. So it's like it's an awkward scale. And like I've told you before, I'm not going to be a problem. So at the point at which you decide that you want to move forward with your next soup, you just need to tell me and I will.
Oh yeah, I'm not, and I didn't want to infer that at
Yeah.
all. The timeline just doesn't make sense. And I see it's actually in the contract about March 15th that's what we signed previously.
Yeah, that's what we had with the previous superintendent as well.
If you're in the employment law, if you don't make the move by March 15th, then basically you have to terminate for cause. Or on our contracts, there are a clause of terminate without cause, and there's a set of conditions that we go through. Yeah.
I just want to point out in particular that those interim progress reports are really important as we think about, sort of that order of things. I want to also just make a comment too that like some of my colleagues here, hello, director, do we call each other colleagues? We're going to be colleagues. Yeah. Amigos. Yes. I do appreciate that your goals and the board's goals align. And one thing that I want to make sure that we put voice to, Dave, is that part of our job is to support you in achieving those goals. And so while we're talking about evaluation and all of this, like there's a mutual responsibility that I think really shows up in the fact that our goals are aligned with yours. But I think it's important to just name that. And relatedly, in terms of board member evaluations, are we planning, we haven't talked about this, but I know OSBA has a self-assessment. Is that what we have in mind?
I'll just say, I think that got lost in sort of the crisis of the last 2 years. So that's something we're going to need to figure out how to do.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I'm open to any suggestions or changes you want in the timeline.
If I'm understanding it correctly, then because the data doesn't come until October, then this review period is based on the previous October's data.
Or if I can pull local assessment data, I'll pull local assessment data to show how kids are improving for the student achievement part of this. I think the other aspect that in a lot of the measurables is, again, how am I running the district? The student achievement scores it's a lagging indicator of the other work that I'm doing. And so really trying to figure out some measurables around how am I working with principals and how am I ensuring that their goals are, those are all pieces that I think are also really important here. I'm always going to be measured by student achievement. Understand that, and I approve. I mean, that's job one. But there's also for you in trying to figure out whether or not the district is being run well, there's the other work that I'm doing that I think is also a really important aspect of it. But I will find, I mean, if I'm using data that you've already seen, I don't think that speaks to you, like that I'm doing something. So I've got to find data that's moving, changing, and newer.
Thank you.
Well, I would say that this is a vast improvement over sort of the timelines we've worked on. So this is really helpful.
Okay, next time around, we'll move for taking action on it and then we can get going. Okay, and then I think I'm presenting my contract.
Can I just give a little sort
Please.
of, James, maybe help me remember. We first sort of started talking about a potential of extending the contract in May or June.
It was like April, May, it was first talked about, and then
Through the evaluation process, I think, and there's some complications with negotiating contracts. And this is a process that is new to Dave because he's not done it this way. And we can't do negotiating in executive session. And I think Dave has been incredibly gracious about allowing his evaluation to be in public session and this discussion around the contract. And I just want to explain to the board that a couple of steps that I have taken. One was that I asked Director Woodward, who was on the board at the time, to sort of gather all of the information about when we hired Dave as an interim and collected that and sent that off to our attorney for our Lisa Freely, just to confirm that we were okay to be able to a contract extension without doing a full search and going back out into the community and doing a lot of the steps that people might be more used to. And so Lisa is retired and our timelines just kind of stretched a little longer than I had hoped, but she confirmed that we are good to do it in this process. We could have identified somebody on the board to, negotiate with Dave separately and bring it back. But I think maybe in light of previous years' superintendent contract extensions, I just felt like a public conversation around it was really better this year. So she confirmed that we didn't have to do any extra process. The other thing I did is Dave had sent me his contract request, and I did send it to Lisa Freely to look at just from the lens of is it legal? Not are the conditions, or a salary or anything. And she had a little switch of language on Dave, help me remember.
The TSA.
TSA. And so that's reflected. So that it doesn't change the contract, but it just protects both the district and Dave. It's just, so to the extent that there's been no negotiating. I have not entered into any phase of negotiation, and I want that to be public, and I want the board to understand that this is the process that we're going to do this year. And it feels uncomfortable, feels awkward. But I think the next step is that we let Dave give his rationale for the contract, and then we have discussion around it. And hopefully we have a vote about it tonight. Any questions about what I just said?
I am the newest board member, but was just also interested to hear like what information you've gotten from community or from teachers
We
about.
didn't. This has not been go out into the community process. That's what I had consulted with Lisa to make sure that, do we have to do that? And we do not have to do that. I probably, that's not a perfect way to go around everything, but Dave has been in the community, he's been in the schools. I think that if we had complaints or concerns, people would have come to us. We have received so many complaints and, over the course of our almost 3 years of board members, this is a pretty healthy community in terms of communication. Does that reach everybody? No. But to the extent that we are in a point now where we make a decision about whether we want to move forward with Dave Parker as our superintendent, or we make a decision that we are going to go out and do a full search. The two are that they're not. I mean, if it's fair to me to say, that's not can I say what I want to say?
Yeah.
That Dave would not be a part of that process. So, so I guess if people are not comfortable with an extension of the contract, and this is not an uncommon thing to do around the state, then we make a decision that we would move forward with a search and start over.
So if there was a search, it is possible that that Dave could
No, he won't.
apply.
He could, but he won't.
It is possible, and he's electing not to.
Yes.
Yeah, and my reasoning for that would be at the point at which Newberg wants to find their next superintendent, we need to find the next superintendent. It's not going to be me. I am near at retirement. And so that would be my reasoning for not, if we're going to go do the search, then we should do the search and find the next suit who's going to be here for whatever number of years. I don't think that's my role. I think my wish here is that I think we've got some stability going. And I think making a change right now would not be in the best interest of the district, which is why I'm proposing that we extend my contract.
I just want to speak from some personal experience outside of here. So the district that I work in went through this same thing a few years back. There was a superintendent left shortly after there was a financial crisis that an interim helped guide that district through. And the district chose to do the exact same thing we're talking about doing, which is that board chose to do an extension, make the interim a permanent one for a certain amount of years. And when that superintendent then chose to fully retire, then they did a national search and brought on the next superintendent, which we're talking about. But they chose the exact same thing we're talking about, which is right after coming out of crisis, let's keep the stability, keep it going, knowing that, like Dave, that superintendent was like, hey, I don't have that many years left. I'll continue getting this district through to a point of stability. And then when that superintendent chose to move on, they did a new search, and that has worked out super well, in my opinion. And having gone through that, that is what I'd like to see personally here, is to continue the stability we have. And then at whatever point you're done, then I think that would be the time to move to a national search.
I have a question just to make sure we're all level set. I thought when we brought on Dave, there was just not a 1-year contract, it was maybe a 1.5 year, 2-year contract. So what if we do nothing today and we go home and think about if we need to postpone this discussion, at least the action item? What is your current, like, in the contract right now?
On June 30th,
June 30th this year?
26.
Oh, the school year, yes. Okay. Oh, I thought it was longer than that. Okay, thank you.
So am I understanding it correctly that if we don't vote yes, or we don't approve this today, then it's a no?
No, I mean, if based on what we have here, you can't make a decision, yes, we move forward with Dave in this contract, or some minor negotiating points. I'm saying that if we don't reach an agreement with Dave to extend a contract, we then have to just shift gears and start doing a search, a public search. And so I guess that's a question for the board is there an appetite for a search?
I'm curious, in the Xed out lines in this contract from the previous contract, it talks multiple times about the second year. I'm just curious, just going back to what Director Hayden had talked about. I guess I was under the impression that it was not January. I thought it was the end of the next year.
No, it was about an 18-month contract. It was the end of June 2026.
Okay.
The last half of last school year plus this school.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I will just say, I very much appreciate Dave being superintendent here. I think that it's been really wonderful. It's just hard for me. I know that in past meetings I had talked about before we did the search that I didn't love the idea of doing an interim search with the expectation that we're going to do another because I thought that that would potentially not give us all the candidates who would want to come in for that. And now we're here, and I have full faith in extending Dave for another 2 years. It's just the reality of the situation. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're willing to stay on. I just can't not say that it's frustration. I wish that we would have done it in the first place. That said, continue conversation, but it's just, I wish that we had been able to be more clear about that originally when we started the search.
Well, I think we were in a kind of a unique situation. It was.
I agree. I agree.
I don't think that anybody was really, we needed to be getting an interim in quickly. So.
One question I have about this, looking at the term on the proposed, it's July 1st, 2025 through 2028. Is that correct? So if this was approved, then we would just be backdating and back paying and all that.
Yep.
Okay.
And I did ask
Just wanted to
Lisa
make sure.
about that. She said that's very standard, especially when you start that process and then it just sort of drags on. But
And I actually haven't gone through the terms of this contract. We're still, I'm
No, I just-
happy to do that.
I just wanted to make sure because I heard 2 years, but this would be backdating, but a 3-year contract.
Yeah.
Supersede, which, yeah, so it's an extension, but it would just be instead of you ending in a little under a year, this would be 3 years from July. Okay.
Yep.
yeah, and I think the use of the word of extension is a little misnomer. I mean, we would be creating a new contract, but extending our working relationship with Dave.
I think I would like to sort of call back to the experience that we all had in the interim search. My recollection is that when we were going through that process, even as we were interviewing and discussing, we weren't at that time perfectly clear on how long that interim contract was going to be. And we had some conversations as a board. Is this a 2-year contract? Is this a 3? Is this a 5? What is it going to be? And I think we should note that, at the time, I think we made the right decision for where we were then, the information we had in front of ourselves then. And that's, I think, the best we can do as a board is just make a decision with the information we have accessible to us. We have more information now about Dave. We have more information now about the financial situation that we're in, our plans, our goals, and where we're going. And I think that we now have this opportunity to make this decision now with some more information that's going to keep us, in my opinion, moving forward and continuing this stability so that when we get to the point to do this national search, like Saul's wishing for, that we will get all of those incredible candidates. And I think that just we had the information then, we have different information now. It's our job as professionals to digest this and pivot and do the things that we can to guide this district in the right direction.
I think along with that too, thinking long term, for that national search. I want to make sure that, just to be honest, I mean, Newberg's been kind of, we've gone through a lot of crises, a lot of flaming garbage piles for a while, right? And we've been putting them out, and we've done that. Paula helped do that. Dave's helped do that. And I think before we can even get to the point where we're going to be bringing in those, long-term top-notch candidates, we still have a lot of work to be done. As pointed out in this timeline, we have some redistricting, we have bringing back furlough days. And I think, again, I'm very much in favor of this contract because of the work that Dave's already been doing, the fantastic job, and continuing to get us to that point where when he's done, we've done all those things. We are a district in really, really good shape. And then that next leader isn't coming in with that, I have to still fix some things. It's that future thing. And I think that's at least the way I'm looking at it, is we still have a lot of work to do to get us to that point. Dave's already been doing that work, and I personally want to see him continue that work. And then when that work is done, when he feels he's done, then that's when we get the next chapter, rather than the next person still having to clean up the messes of a previous administration. And so that's at least my 2 cents on that. And the way I see it is, I do agree. I think at some point that will be necessary, what this community needs. But I think the best time for that is when the messes have been cleaned up and we are back to a very, very healthy place.
Is there an option well, it looks like it's moving out, it's not extending an interim contract, it's moving to a permanent superintendent, if I'm reading it correctly.
Yes.
Okay. And then is it also an option to extend it a year if we know a search is going to take longer? By the way, I'm sitting next to you. I have loved working with you. You've been amazing. I have no concerns. I do really care a lot about making sure our community has some say, some voice, and that they have an opportunity that we have the opportunity to hear from other community stakeholders as well. It I'm nervous about being heavy-handed in approving a new permanent superintendent without a search and any community feedback or stakeholder feedback.
2 thoughts that I'll just add to what some of my amigos have shared.
Amigos.
Yes.
I'm aware of our financial position right now, and I'm aware of how very expensive it is to do a search. And so for me, there's an incredibly practical reason why I'm happy to entertain this contract today. The other thing I want to say is both Dave as superintendent and us as a board have an entire goal around enhancing community engagement and making sure that we don't have to wait for a search process to go out and figure out what our community wants and needs. And I think we have a level of trust with Dave to know that if we're hearing something that requires us to pivot, we're going to pivot, or we're at least going to strongly consider it. So I think those are important things to consider as well.
And I recognize that I'm sort of at a disadvantage because I've been part of the leadership team for 3 years. And in that role, I have the opportunity to sit with the superintendent and listen to thought processes and see how they problem solve in a small room. I'll just go back to the previous superintendent, and it was a snow day. And the amount of angst that the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, the leaders in the building all went around sitting there talking about, should we call it as a snow day? Now, that's just a small sort of snapshot of sort of getting to see the thinking as to how people work. But then I also, as I said, I went to that back to school event with all the staff, and the level of enthusiasm was I don't really have a great word to say. It would just it made my heart so happy. I saw a school administrator say, Deb, I'm so happy we're on the right trajectory. So I see people that look to Dave for longer than his contract because they're not going to invest in what we're trying to do now with the anticipation that we've got another superintendent coming out. Because we had a mess to deal with a previous one that they did a community search on. And the board chose to go with somebody that came forward. And so we have it is a tricky spot, but also it is our job to also be listening to the community and to bring forward. So I feel very comfortable extending or creating a situation in which Dave is no longer listed as an interim, because that also has sort of this, we're just in a holding pattern. And I just would like him to get to the job at hand, especially around strategic planning and boundaries. And I think back to organizations where, that work is critical for the success, but that's critical for the success of the next person coming in. And it's hard for me to imagine somebody who doesn't have the connection and history with Newberg to be able to do that work in a meaningful way. And I think it would get lost in the newness of somebody coming into the district. So I guess I feel like I've had opportunities to get feedback. I feel that people have been very, and I've had people who've just been really very emotional with me about certain things, and they're happy. They're very happy with the current sense of culture in in the school district and the prospects for moving forward. So I guess I don't have that same concern, except for the fact that Director Byerly, who I find to be very wise, also mentioned, the strategic planning process is also an opportunity for us to get feedback and looking for a future of what do we want in leadership? What do we want what is the culture of our schools? What do we want our schools to look like? How do we want to be seen in the community? And how do we recruit students to want to be at school? So I think that that's a tool that we can use. While it's not technically listed as a search, it also has, I think, some real good data attached to it. So that's kind of my thoughts. So
I'd say that I have no appetite for a new superintendent search. I think that the community doesn't want that right now. I am very much for this. I think what I was trying to say was I'm frustrated about the prior process, and it is what it is. And like, it was a unique situation. But yes, I think in this moment that we didn't get a chance to go to the community. It was advised to us that a lot of candidates might not want to apply for something that's that public facing in a public way. And so we went through this as well of trying to do that, and we're advised strongly that that's not the way you're going to want to do this process, because it becomes a popularity contest. It becomes a situation where people are staking their current job on the chance for this new job that could affect their old job. I guess I feel like my comments originally came off like I'm not sure about this. I am sure about this. I couldn't let it go that felt like I'd spoken up a lot for the fact that I wanted to make sure we did a full-time search when the time came. I don't know what benefit it would be at this point to change the direction in a time that things are finally feeling good. So I just want to clarify that my point was more of the process and less about the person, because I think we have the person for our time.
One other thought I had too is that it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, is a consensus that the intention of the board, at least in the current makeup, is that at some point there will be a public search. And I think one thing that we ran into last time was because of the shortness of that, we weren't able to do that. We had crisis. We now know that we're telling the public that is the intention at some point when Dave's done. I think this, in fact, actually opens more time for the public to think about what they want, to get that feedback to us over the next several years, as we do this work, to see how Dave is doing, to see what they want to have in the future, and to get distance from, again, that crisis. Because as we see a lot of times, even on the national stage and different things, people are just, I want whatever, is the opposite of this mess I just had rather than what do I want the future to be. And I think this will actually, by not compressing the timeline, we'll give a longer timeline for that public feedback by doing this for people to talk about, well, when Dave's ready to retire, who do we want? What do we want? What are we looking for in that? And have those longer term conversations so that there is a lot more data going into that search when that date comes.
I think it will also be very valuable for our community to see consistent superintendent evaluations that are public and available, to see us evaluate ourselves and report on that, and to sort of watch this cycle over the course of a couple years instead of this year we do this year we do that, and this constant changing. I'd also like to point out that these goals that we all just spent time looking at and that Dave has spent so much time working on, these are not 1-year goals. These are really long-term goals. And I'm thinking especially about the student achievement and instructional impact, and just getting those PLCs up and running. And I think it can be such a frustration in education that if you feel like you didn't get something done, that you got to wait a whole nother year to do it. And it's a long game. And I'm just personally thrilled to be in this long game with Dave.
I guess I'll just try and bring it back around. I mean, first of all, Dave hasn't even presented this. I think we've skimmed through it.
Right.
And we understand his terms. But I guess maybe voice reason. I mean, if there's anybody that even one person needs to process their own thoughts on this, I wouldn't want to say we call for a vote tonight. We can postpone it till next time. I think he was just presenting it so we can start talking about it. So
Actually, I would like to see it put to bed tonight. I think Dave would like to see it put to bed tonight. I would question what would we do between tonight and the 23rd? Is it that you as individual board members go out and do a search? That's not what we've agreed to collectively as a group. So I would be cautious about what that is. Is it us just sitting in our home contemplating this and hemming and hawing? Possibly, but I'd just be very cautious that if we don't leave tonight with a vote, that there is no anticipation that any one of these of our fellow board members would be out canvassing about whether Dave is the person to be leading. I mean, that would be problematic.
Well, I wouldn't even see it as that. I would just say at least what I'm hearing. It sounds like a consensus that we want to move forward. I could see though some people wanting to sit on maybe if there was any parts of it, because as Director Hayden said, we haven't gone through every piece. So I could see, maybe we want to sit on numbers or this or that and think about that and then come back because it is a public
Well,
negotiation.
why don't we give Dave an opportunity?
Before we do that, can we take a 5?
Okay, sure, a 5-minute break. That
Before
would
we
be great.
dive into numbers?
Thank you.
Ready?
Okay, so we're back from our break. So Dave, would you like to present your
So-
information?
Yeah. So I've never negotiated my contract in the board meeting before. So this feels a little awkward.
Do you want us to stare at you or not?
No, but here's what I've included. You've got the strikeout copy of the contract. The contract is the one that you've already signed. It's the same exact contract, so we didn't really change a lot there. I've also included a contract analysis done by Randy Shields and Rob Saxton for all the superintendents. They've chosen the 10 districts that are closest to us in size so that you could kind of see what the average pay is and what some of the pieces are there. I highlighted the total compensation line because that's really the one where you determine kind of how much is the soup really making. There's cell phone things and there's TSA, but the total compensation line is really the one that tells you what you're paying. The average of the 10 districts was 221,987. So I just want to point out that part. And then the last page that I included is kind of just a summary of the what the ask is. The term is a 3-year starting in July. So this year is part of that. Base salary would be 195 with all of the TSA, cell phone, everything. It's 227,980, which, and here's my thinking on that. I think I'm above average. I don't think, I'm not asking for the highest. I'm not asking for the lowest, but I feel like you should, I think I'm above average. The IRS would just be the change here that is each year the IRS TSA amount changes, and I didn't want to have to come back and change the contract each year for that. So that's why you don't see the second year in here is the contract adjusts. The other part is the COLA for the next year would be the same as the administrators, so it adjusts. Whatever we're giving the administrators is what I would receive. And then again, I think this is fair and balanced because the average was 221,987. My current pay is about $20,000 below the average. So that's why I feel like we need to make a change. The proposed is 227,980, which is about 2.7% above the average. Again, I don't think it's an outrageous percentage. And that I think is the extent of the changes that I'm asking.
And let me just point out on this Randy RS2 form, under comparing districts, and there's a black line. That is our previous superintendent's contract. It remains to date the highest contract.
Where was that?
So
The highest
it's
compensation?
that black. It's under, right in the middle. You see that? So just as a reminder of where we found ourselves previously.
I should also say these numbers are from last year. So the new numbers come out in December.
I do appreciate that you putting this together and with the analysis as well as the summary. That was very helpful so that we weren't just staring at the strikeouts, having the actual summary of the changes. So thank you. And I also agree that you're above average personally. So
Guess I'm interested in understanding the date, backdating to June 10th.
So that's actually a mistake. Originally, when I started to produce this document, it was with the June 10th meeting. It should be September 9th.
So that should be today's date.
It should be today's date because that's what this thing was predicated on, which is whatever date you're going to take action on this. So in the very first, so everybody knows what we're talking about, the very first paragraph in the contract lists June 10th. When I
Oh,
did
yes.
this work, it was before June 10th, and that's when I thought we were going to be talking about this. So that should be today's date.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
And just a reminder, we've had our district council review the contract for all legalities, again, which is something that we didn't have the benefit of with the last contract for the previous superintendent. This is actually a pretty easy contract that has been put together. I think it's very clear. I mean, obviously it's the same one we signed last year, but
It's not so unwieldy like we dealt with another contract.
I guess just checking in real quick, Nate, with you in terms of like what our adopted budget has been. This all fits within what we've already approved there. I'm sorry, I don't have it memorized.
You don't have the budget memorized? I'm tethering my comments. I apologize. So as far as the budget goes, we have the superintendent salary included in there. And yes, we have some things that have happened since adopting that budget that we're still going to address. And I think that any changes based on this board's conversation and the consideration of this contract will be part of those calculations that we're going to be doing in the next few months. So all that to say that yes, this will be in the budget. What you guys decide, and yeah.
that didn't really feel very confident.
Oh,
We have the budget to sustain this, to be able to support this contract.
Yes.
Okay,
There's
thank you.
no problem with us paying for.
Okay.
any
There's
of
not
this.
going to be like another furlough day
Oh my
added.
gosh, no.
If
No.
people,
No.
we're not gonna, okay.
So I was
Putting
told
out
this
the
week,
further
I admitted that I was a wet blanket on things, and I'm trying to change that, but it's really hard.
Well, we have room
So-
for growth, so good job.
I admit that.
Yeah.
Yes. I apologize.
Okay, no, that's okay.
I'll make a last comment. It sounds like I am the primary one who has concerns about approving a contract tonight. And I just want to say, I'm okay if I am a primary one having concerns
It's
and
okay.
everybody else approves it. I don't feel any kind of a way about that. I also feel okay to like stay in my conscience about if we're hiring a permanent superintendent, there's a reason for a search and community and stakeholder feedback versus, just a board decision. If we're just extending an interim, then these terms look great as far as the interim work that continues to happen. So I will just, speak to, it is okay. It is okay to have varying opinions. I think the
sure.
value of a board is various opinions.
I think that
Totally
an
agree.
important word is interim. Because if we're saying this is an interim, continuing with the contract as an interim, that still leaves a level of uncertainty, I think. And at some point, and this is where I want to sit within my value set, is that I want to support our superintendent and I want to support our school community and to say, I'm very comfortable removing the title of interim and sort of getting behind the stability of superintendent. And I think that's a critical component. But I really appreciate that you feel comfortable saying that, because I think that's a value for all of our board members, is that at some point we will have differing opinions and we want people to feel safe and and comfortable, having opinions. So,
I'd like to echo that. Thank you for sharing that. And yes, please always feel free. I think we should all
yeah.
feel open and safe to do that. I'll just jump in with my opinion on this. I think this is a very fair contract. I think for the work that Dave has already been doing and will continue to do, I think this is very fair in all numbers. It is still way less than we were paying for way more quality, just to be frank. And I think this is overall benefit to the students, to the staff, and to the taxpayers of this district. I also agree. I think that I value the stability that this will bring by bringing on converting an interim situation to a permanent situation. I think, Dave, you've done an amazing job, and and I have absolute faith in your ability to continue to do so. But also hearing what you said, Dr. Jones. It was on there. I had to say it at least once. But I want to go back to what I was saying earlier while still your comment about bringing in public. I think that this actually, in my view, gives us the opportunity to have a longer term, a longer timeline to solicit that feedback as we do this work. We've had in 2 years, 3 superintendents. I don't want to see us have more. We had a brand new board go through, go into 3 superintendents. And I think the community just needs this stability. So I think that I by no means think that us moving into a permanent situation gets rid of that public input. I think that we now have that opportunity to solicit that for the future and the job that's being done, as well as whenever Dave's done the next one. So just bringing that back, this gives us a longer time to do that. So my opinion here is that I think this is a fair contract, and I would love to move forward with it and with a permanent one as part of the discussion. So.
Since I already asked about the date, I'm looking at the motion. I just want to be super, super clear that this contract would take effect September 9th, 2025, not July 1, 2025, and not
No.
June 10, 2025.
No.
That language, so that's what's kind of confusing. Sorry, it would retro to July 1. At that June 9th.
To align with the fiscal
me.
year.
Okay.
July 1, 2025. What's listed in here is the minutes
Yeah.
for Wednesday, June 10th is tonight's meeting.
So
It wouldn't be,
this would be to align with, if I, just to my understanding, to backdate it, but to align it with the fiscal year that we currently operate under.
Right. But Andy, is your question about why we have tonight's date in the first paragraph? Is that where your question is? Essentially, that date is presenting that this is the first time we presented and talked about it, and then next meeting we have to approve the minutes, and so it's going back to saying this is all good from this meeting.
Okay. So just so I'm clear, the reference to June 10th, which we've established should say September 9th,
Correct.
back on page 36 of our packet,
Mhm.
that's referencing the minutes
Mhm.
of this meeting.
Yes.
Right. Okay. The contract that we are voting on is to take effect July 1. Is that all accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So in the event that we are able to do a vote tonight, shall we be, the as amended piece is just going to be that September 9 date?
Correct.
Okay. I know that we've each had a lot of time to say our pieces, and I appreciate everyone's willingness to communicate. I think my last piece that I would like to say on it, echoing what James just shared about this giving us more time, I think that we owe this community a really solid search. And owe this community the ability to do that. No, thanks. Sorry, it's late. Okay. When we do that search, I want us to be able to do it to the very best of our abilities. And I do not think that we could do that now. I do not think that we are in a position as a district to do that now. I have full faith and trust that Dave is going to get us there. I can imagine the excitement that we will have when we get to entertain those candidates and what that's going to look like. But I also feel so much peace and confidence, joy, which are words that I think we would not have said aloud a year ago, in solidifying this contract. I agree, James. I think it is a very fair contract. I appreciate the extra work, Dave, that you put into it to present it all to us. And I personally am comfortable presenting a motion. If my fellow board members are interested in that.
Go ahead.
Go
You
ahead.
need to point out one more thing. It looks like in the very last paragraph. Page 41, the district pursuant to the authority of the board of directors by its action of, and that dates the date that you signed me. Yeah, so that one needs to be September 9th too. So in the first paragraph and in the last paragraph for the amendments. Sorry, Andy.
Well, oh, just out of curiosity, is this, we're not hiring a new superintendent. I'm just wondering if there's any wording there that needs to be spoken of transitioning from interim or not while we're on technicalities.
Not that I know of.
Perfect.
And Lisa looked that part of it over. And again, it's interesting when you say permanent. Just my own perspective here, because of removing the interim is important because I'm superintendent. I've never felt like an interim, even after you hired me. But again, I do have a limited, range. It's, I did 6 years in my first, superintendency, and it won't be 6 years. So permanent to me still doesn't tell my story, because that's not what you're hiring me for. Is I'm again the superintendent until we get the next one. And I don't know exactly what that looks like yet, but for me, the interim does make a difference. So it's important to me as I begin to run the district. I'm going to do it like I've always done it. So that's just my thinking around that. So
One thing I remember from your interview, if I can share.
Yeah.
One of the questions we asked of the finalists was, would they entertain a little bit longer term? We were looking for an interim with the potential for longer. And one of the things that I still remember you said was you would, because you wanted to be here for the amount of time it took to do the work. And to me, this feels like the fulfillment of that, because you have found more work that needs to be done and to get us to that point for the kids. And so I just want to say that I really appreciate that, because I remember that. And that was one of the reasons that I voted for you. And here we are again. So, so I thank you, and just wanted to share that.
All right, I'm going to do it. I move that the Newberg Dundee School District Board of Directors approve the superintendent's contract as amended, effective July 1, 2025, for a term of 3 years through June 30, 2028.
Second.
Any further questions? Comments? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
A nay. So because we are not unanimous, we need to do a roll call. So
James Wolfer, aye.
Andy Byerly, aye.
Aubrey Nichols, aye.
Deb Bridges, aye.
Jeremy Hayden, aye.
Saul Allen, aye.
Celeste Jones, nay.
Thanks, everybody, for the robust conversation. Dave,
Can you Where we just read out what the numbers were. I think that was part of our.
Right, sorry. So 6
One.
to 1, sorry.
Motion.
6 yes, 1 no. For Jackie. Okay. But I appreciate the conversation. And congratulations, Dave.
Yes, I'm glad to not be talking about myself anymore.
So I just, again, I want to thank you for being willing to do this exercise in public for everybody to see. I think it speaks a lot to you, your leadership, but it also has, this particular board has a lot of work to do around transparency and having conversations and open. And I think it just is better for the community.
Mhm.
So what's next? Nate, building level signatories.
This is so boring compared.
Back to boring.
Yeah. Hey, here's a nut and bolt for you guys. Yeah. So we're just assigning the building level signatories. These are people that are authorized to sign and inquire about accounts around our associated student body accounts at the buildings.
I move that the Newberg Dundee Public School Board of Directors approve and designate the student body accounts depository signatures for fiscal year 2025-26 as listed.
Second.
Any further questions? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, we're unanimous. All right, Dave, do you want to start with and then we'll go around, and
Yep.
then this is a reminder that we'll end with you guys, the students, and you can tell us anything that you might want to tell us. You do not have to speak.
Okay, want to begin by sharing what a positive opening we've had to the school year. Attendance has been strong. The new panorama, by the way, I go in each day and I can look and see what all the schools' attendance is. It'll also be something I'm talking about with principals when we meet tomorrow I meet my first 2 schools. So it's been good. Student behavior's been solid across. It's kind of set a great tone for the start of the year so far. Our new teacher in service was well attended, gave us a chance to really start talking and focusing on instruction, talking about what works in the classroom, really getting to know our new teachers. Again, a really positive, Tammy was the one kind of organizing that. So it was just a great experience. Our full staff in service week flew by. I will share that presentation because we really worked hard to start talking about why are we here? What are we doing? And what are our behaviors? How do we act as an organization? So I want to thank our teachers for their energy, preparation, the care they put into welcoming students back. The efforts really show why we had kind of a smooth start, knock on wood. I want to recognize our principals and school leaders. Buildings were ready, staffs were supported. Opening days reflected a lot of planning, hard work over the summer. If you had a chance to walk in any of the buildings, I also want to I shouted them out on Friday's message, but the schools look great. The paint job at Crater and Chehalem Valley look great. So everything's been a really positive start to the year. I spent some time in the opening with the all staff kind of talking about purpose, kind of our promise to the community. And then we started talking about culture and how culture trumps even if we have the best strategy of how we're going to increase student achievement, if we don't have a positive culture supporting it, you still don't achieve. It doesn't work. And so a lot of what we're talking about right now is, again, about how do we begin to build this positive culture. One of the things that we're kind of using as a maxim this year is called rooted together, growing strong. And it's really just this idea about we've been through a lot, but we're still here. And the thing that I love about Newberg is people help each other. Just even during the hard times, the amount of people who gave and their time, their money. And so it's just, again, one of these places where You'll see that theme you saw and kind of in Jillian's presentation, the image of the tree and this idea of we as a community, we're rooted together and we're getting better. So you'll see me talk about it quite a bit coming up here. It'll be something as I begin to test as we get ready for strategic planning. I'll be pushing out some probably digital survey thought exchanges around just testing some of those themes. I'm pretty sure I know what I'm going to hear, but we'll go out and we'll test it anyway, just to make sure. And then the boundary committee, I've got some, here we go. We're prepping a boundary committee to start on October 2nd. I'm handing out kind of a purpose and charge. It's kind of a sheet kind of explaining what we're doing, where we're going. But I'm basically looking for, on the backside, you'll see kind of as we're beginning to assemble this committee, October 2nd is going to be our start date. And the piece here, and I explained a little bit, but the basic gist is this, is that our current structural organization is creating some problems for us, because now we have 4 small schools, which means that there's like two sections per grade level. And so if I have a class size of like 18 and 18, I can't cut a section there, because then I'd have 36 in a class and I can't have that. But 17 or 18 and 18 are still too low for what Oregon pays. So we've got kind of a structural problem that we need to take a look at. Now, that could be moving kids in a boundary. There's some other ideas that we might be able to do. But this committee is the group of people we're bringing together to begin to talk about those situations. And then what their charge is to basically bring the board a recommendation of some sort. I don't know what that will be. It really kind of depends upon as we look at this as a committee. The last time they ran a boundary committee, it took like 1.5 years. I put 6 meetings on the calendar. I don't know exactly how this will roll, but we'll get into it. We'll start the conversation, and then we'll kind of see where this leads. Our hope would be we could come to some decisions before budget season, but I can honestly tell you it may not happen. It just kind of depends on how this rolls and where we're going. I put a fairly aggressive set of meetings on there. We'll have to see. It's basically every 2 weeks. We're looking for, and the reason I'm bringing to the board tonight is I'll go out and start communicating this. We've already got principals who are looking for the parents and for teachers to be part of this. It'll also, whatever we come up with, we'll need to take out to the community to engage them. So it won't just come to the board for a decision before we do the engagement part. But we do need the committee to kind of listen and kind of begin to develop some proposals. What we're looking for from the board, I think, is I'd like to have the board chair sit on this committee, and then we're looking for 2 other folks. And so I think one of the quick little questions tonight would be who has an interest in that, and who can I put together for that?
I'd be interested. I'm not on a lot of committees, so I'd be interested if I know. So some people are not overwhelmed. So I think I'm on 1 committee right now.
I'm also interested in supporting it.
I'm interested. It sounds like you already have 2. So I mean, unless we're going to put stuff to a vote. So
Yeah. Okay. I originally chose 3 because if we go to 4, we have a quorum. And so maybe let me put my brain around maybe how we can involve more folks. Because it sounds like a lot of people, I mean, and understandably so, this is an important conversation. So,
Well, and I think it speaks volumes that so many people want to participate in that committee. It's great.
Right.
And-
Oh, sorry.
oh, no, you can go ahead.
I was gonna say one idea too could be make it rotating, because I'm sure that we're going to hear about it from the as a board, but it actually, now that I think about it, if there are more, it might be, I go one, Jeremy goes one, Saul goes. It might be good to have more people go.
Yeah.
For maybe one of those positions is more rotating and one's permanent. I don't know, just so that we
Yeah.
have more perspectives and hear about it.
I was going to say on the flip side, on your strategic planning, is there going to be board members' participation on that too? So maybe some of the people that are on that are on that, and maybe that entices people to be more on the strategic side versus the boundary side. I don't know. So
Yeah.
I'll also say I'm the most junior board member here. So if you just need to pick based to go with
Yeah.
the plan and pick based on expertise in the board role, that is also fine.
No, you're not junior at all. You're full on, baby.
Yeah.
You're full on.
I actually think it's a really strong case to have you on there because, you're going to be here longer than some of us. So.
I do want to mention that Nancy Woodward offered to be a community member on, so we could put, if you wanted to put her name.
Yep.
She represents a good demographic.
Okay, let me do a little work on it. I know I've gone long on my comments. That's it. Again, thanks. I appreciate I understand the politics involved in approving my contract, but I appreciate the confidence, and I'm going to do good work.
Thank you.
Okay.
This is where we go.
Dr.
around.
Jones.
I've come prepared.
Okay.
So I'm highlighting Mountain View Middle School and a couple of distinctives as they've gotten the school year off the ground. I think there's something to be said for supporting the students you have versus like pining for the students that you wish you had. I see them doing this work of supporting the students and the families that they have, and so they've partnered with Family Place to provide a free group series for parents and guardians with teens, and opened it up to parents at Mountain View and CV. They're working on their mud run, and that fundraiser used to be in the spring, is coming up in October, so in the fall this year. And then they're also partnering with CV, the Cultural Center, to bring performing arts experiences to the middle school. And so all of the middle schoolers will get to see the complete works of William Shakespeare at the Cultural Center on October 13th, 14th, and 15th. Lots of excitement and positive parent and kid quotes about the start of the school year going well. So looking forward to it for Mountain View.
Excited to have some stability for the next few years, Dave. Thank you for being willing to do that and for what you've done so far. So I'm excited for more good things to come. I want to say thank you to all the staff, the schools, teachers, Joe and Austin. At least the excitement level by all of the staff was very, very high, which was wonderful for all the kids coming in. And from the kids that I have gotten to talk to, they are very, very excited for the school year. I will say that, my apologies. I very much, I have a kindergartner this year, so I very much enjoyed the soft start in terms of getting to talk to the teachers, talk about our children. I think that was probably really good for a lot of parents. And I do want to say to those parents, I assume that there were struggles with that delayed notification, but thank you for bearing with us. And I have to believe for most all of them, it was very, very helpful to know that they're going into a classroom where their teachers have a better knowledge of them than just walking in on day one. So that was really awesome. Thank you for the SIA presentation. It's really nice to be able to see real things, real numbers, information, where we're putting our dollars, how we're best utilizing that, which feels nice. It feels good to be able to see progress and to know that things are happening. And yeah, I look forward to a solid start to the school year with no drama.
I know it's kind of weird having no kids in school, but then I'm still connected in ways because we have family and friends. I got to see my nephew play in Friday's football game. It's probably the best game against Canby I've ever seen, and it was nice. So, but I'll see other sports because we have friends and their kids are like freshmen and playing volleyball, etc. So it's fun getting back into the community there. Um, it's gonna be fun to be in a school next board meeting, so that'll be interesting and fun and to look around. It's probably been a few years since I've been in Edwards, so well, except for the new extensions that we did the tour last year. So, um, Dave, congrats on the new contract. Definitely well deserved. You are above average for sure. So, I will though shoot some comments, some questions, I guess, on around your key metrics. I'll shoot it through an email before next meeting because there's key clarifications I'd like to have, or I think we should have. Um, and then just getting more, my plan this year, my personal goal is to be more, community involved within the schools that I'm supposed to be representing. I am planning to go in the parent group for Mountain View in 2 days. So that'll be my first time. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, exciting time. So I'm liaison out to Ewing Young and dropped off my little love notes to everybody in the building just before school started. And then I have on my calendar to attend their um, parent group and of course their auction and all that kind of fun stuff. And I'd like to give a shout out to the Friendsview Springbrook group because they made a very sizable donation of school supplies to Mountain View Middle School. And yikes, there was something else. Yeah, it's out. It's gone. Glad to have you working, taking that interim off.
Echoing the same sentiments. I'm thrilled to have you here till 2028. Oh man, I am also in my second week back at school, so my brain is, my words are mushy, my brain is mushy. Let's see. I am thrilled about what I have been lovingly calling our school board roadshow. I think it's going to be really fun to be out in the community. I hope that we can meet some more people and just see all our beautiful schools. I'm very excited to be at Edwards at our next one. Edwards also has their first parent meeting tomorrow night, their EVO meeting. They're the Edwards Volunteer Organization, so that one's tomorrow night. And then I too will be at Mountain View's parent meeting on Thursday night. I do want to shout out Mountain View. I was so impressed. I have a middle school student this year in our house, and I was just so impressed with the care that both middle schools put into their sixth graders. I thought I was just thrilled as a nervous mom and as just a community member who's often, people reach out, when is this thing or how do we do this? And I just felt like the information was so clear. They had all of the sixth graders at both middle schools go for a half day in August, which eased so much anxiety for those 11-year-olds. And then the addition of the parent supply drop-off kind of back to school night that was just for sixth grade families was just wonderful. I think the kids walked in the door feeling confident. They already knew teachers. They already knew friends. That's just huge. So thank you to our middle school staff. Student reps, welcome. This was a goodie. You guys are doing great. But I do have a small gift for you all. I am a real dangerous lady when it comes to Canva. And you know that Deb and I have been chit-chatting about ways that we can all get more
We want to have
involved.
more fun this year, guys.
We
That's
love
just
fun.
we
We
love treats.
So I have created for all of us a school board bingo sheet. And I have filled it with some ideas and activities for all of us school board directors. I will not read them all to you, but some examples are that you could, let's see. Well, there's volunteer, each volunteer at a middle, volunteer at a high, volunteer at an elementary. You could meet with a board member from a neighboring district. You could attend a student sale like the plant sale or Maker's Market. You could attend a parent organization meeting, a musical event, a theater event. There are so many options. You have a freebie in the middle.
Other than make us have to go to graduation.
Well, that was one, but then I figured we're all going to graduation. Jury is still out on what the impressive prizes will be. We'll check with our gifting strategies. But maybe a special prize for a bingo, maybe a special prize for a blackout in June if we can get there. One of these is meet with your school resource officer. So wouldn't that be fun? I could meet with, not you, but you know. Anyway, this is for your enjoyment, my friends. You know I love an activity.
Do them for the students.
It's like a star chart.
It is. I love a visual.
So does it start? Because I may have already met with this. Right.
If you know, starts today. We're all starting at the
Start
same
today.
spot. But Nate, if you could we need to give them to the student reps too.
Yeah.
So
I'll make some more copies for you guys. In here, I don't need one. I have one. But you know, enjoy it. I do think that you guys, a handwritten note from us to any person in this district goes a long way. So if you need help or ideas, or if you want a buddy to go with you, I'm always happy to do that.
and I am too. So yes. This is fun. Thank you. We've actually really talked about ways to make this meeting and build some team dynamics around our board, because we're here at the board meetings, but then also we have to be cautious about being out together and but I think this is super fun, and I appreciate Aubrey's enthusiasm about the bingo card. We'll find a nice prize. We'll figure it out.
Deb will make you a personalized cookie.
Deb could do that.
And that is all I have. Thank you, everybody.
Now I'm in the position of following that. My comments will be fun. I would just like to say that. I want to also say welcome to our student reps. Thank you so much. I know that you're transitioning back into school and all the other activities, and I'm really excited to have your voice here in the work that we're doing. I want to also say, Jackie, it's great to see you, not out there, but around here. So thank you for all the communication around the packet and preparation and all of that. Dave, Stuck Record, welcome to your new old role. Thanks for the excellent work, and keep it up. I want to highlight in maybe a different way. I have a freshman this year. My youngest just started high school, and we've heard from someone who has a kinder transitioning in, someone who has a sixth grader transitioning in, and I want to shout out the high school for the job in just continuing the excellent work of creating a space that kids want to be. Like, that Newberg Nation is not just a saying, that's a real vibe. And I've talked to a lot of incoming ninth graders, not just this year, but last year, who have said the same thing. To a person, all the incoming ninth graders that I've talked to have had a positive experience. And that, whether we're looking at our ninth grade on track data as an official metric, whether it's anecdotal conversational data, this district is doing a good job in supporting those big transitions. So I want to shout out staff in that aspect. We're doing some great work supporting students as they're moving. It's a big deal for them. I mean, my daughter has been obsessing about her fit for picture day all summer. So it's a big deal. So thanks to everyone for your work in spinning up this school year. I'm really excited for what we're going to do together.
I'm going to continue the broken record. So thankful for you, Dave, and very happy that we can drop that interim title off, and the stability and great work you have been doing, and very happy for the work you're going to continue to do. Like I was saying earlier, we've been through 3 superintendents. I was really glad we're going to stop at that, and you just do such a great job. So thank you. My kid also started kindergarten. And I want to echo Saul's comments. She's been, super excited. She was very nervous about it, and also shout out to Joe and Austin. They turned that anxiety into now she can't wait to go. And every day I'm hearing a new story, and the new tag games they're playing, and they're always coming up with new things. They start playing banana tag. It's kind of like freeze tag, but I don't know. She was trying to teach it to me. And also just they did such a good job that my 2-year-old son was really upset that he could not go with big sister to kindergarten. and was shouting about wanting to go to school too. So anyways, really good job. And it was really good to see how excited she was and just how welcoming they were. And the soft start did help. And you know, she's just completely stoked to go to school every day. And that's what we want to see. And just seeing that personal experience there. So just really happy to have a kid in this district and at some point a second, and really want to echo that. Really happy, and the school year started. So, and also welcome.
Well, this was our first meeting and I didn't really know what to expect, but it was sort of confusing, but it's also good to know what's going on in the board. And as students, we know how students are going to feel about some things, but everything was pretty good. So, yeah, in the school, we've recently started a Key Club, which is great, and we're working with a teacher at Mountain View to get a Builders Club started, which is sort of like Key Club, but at the middle school level. So that's going to be good and upcoming. So, yeah.
I can certainly second that it was a little bit of a kind of a jump into something new, a little confusing, a little, what am I supposed to do? But I'm looking forward to getting to participate in this. I know I'm going to get to learn a lot from watching how this operates and watching how, kind of things are run at this level. I want to repeat that, the school years have started off great. There haven't been really any big hiccups, and I think that it's going to be a pretty good school year. So just wanted to say again, thank you for letting us have this opportunity, and it's going to be good.
I was just going to say I saw Coldplay and I got invited into the orchestra class on Friday afternoon and got a chance to sit down. I was only going to spend a minute or two, but it was their very first practice, and I was like, "Wow!" It was great. So I stayed about 10 minutes and watched. So they did a wonderful job. It was fun to see them get going. So we had the play going. I think they had the orchestra going, and it was lots of work going on.
Okay, well, for that is the good of the order. We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.